Adjoining Hearts, second edit scene 1, Embarkation. The port of Miami shimmered under a punishing sun, turning concrete into a griddle and tourists into puddles. Children whined, suitcases toppled, the air buzzed with static announcements in 4 languages, and the scent of sunscreen, diesel, and hot dogs. Veronica Calderon adjusted the strap of her black carry-on and slid her sunglasses higher on her nose. Stylish and sharp-edged impressed khakis and a linen shirt refusing to wrinkle, she looked like someone who had packed with military precision and no intention of enjoying herself. She was not here for leisure. This was a mission. Survive the cruise her daughter had gifted, then go home. She checked her phone again. One unread message from Ava. "Mom, seriously, relax, just this once. Promise me you'll at least try to have fun. Love you." Veronica snorted softly. "Sure, kid. Fun. What am I doing here?" This whole trip felt like someone else's idea of a good time, a cruise brochure fantasy full of strangers, forced cheer, and bottomless mimosas. I don't like cruises. I don't like crowds. I don't like organized fun. She folded her arms. Delaney should be here. She said she'd be here. "Just a few meetings," she said. "I'll meet you at the port." Veronica shook her head, jaw tight. "I should have known better than to book a vacation with a woman who calls every Monday a battlefield." Her daughter meant well, always did. But this wasn't a gift. It was a dare, a challenge. "Relax, Mom," as if flipping a switch could undo 2 decades of being the glue for everyone else. "The ocean doesn't scare me. Being alone does." She blinked against the sun. "But hell, maybe I'll surprise them all, come back with a tan and a goddamn mermaid tattoo." But her eyes kept drifting to the absence of other messages. No update from Delaney, her girlfriend of 7 months, the one who'd sworn she'd meet her at the terminal. There'd been talk of a work emergency, talk she hadn't taken seriously. Until now. She sighed and moved forward with the line, towing her suitcase like it had offended her. A few lanes over, Gordy Pennwell adjusted the paper party hat his youngest son had jammed onto his head this morning. It read, "Birthday Boy," in faded rainbow letters, and kept sliding over his eyes. "Jesus," he muttered, pushing it back. His Hawaiian shirt, lime green covered in palm trees, was sticking to his back. The envelope in his hand had "Don't lose this, Dad," written in his eldest son's blocky handwriting. Inside, boarding passes, drink package, a printed itinerary with emojis, and a $50 casino voucher he'd never use. 60. He turned the envelope over in his hands like it might sprout answers. The boys meant well, but a cruise? Really, I hate water. I get sunburned under light bulbs, and I haven't danced since the Carter administration. He glanced around. Mothers wrangling toddlers, couples taking selfies, a guy in flip-flops already double-fisting pina coladas. Daryl was supposed to be here. Said he needed it too. Said we'd raise a glass and talk about knees and ex-wives and cholesterol like the old farts we are. Then poof. Cold feet. Gordy sighed. "Maybe I deserve it. Maybe this is the universe's way of saying, 'Time's up, buddy.' Should have found someone to share it with when you still had hair and a waistline." He folded the card back into its envelope. "I swear, if there's karaoke, I'm jumping overboard." He pulled out his phone, tapped open his texts. Nothing from Daryl, his best friend since high school, the one who had promised to take this cruise with him, who said he needed it too. Gordy had called 3 times since breakfast. All to voicemail. He looked up at the floating hotel looming above the docks and sighed. Here's to 60, alone. A child crashed into his shin with a rolling Paw Patrol backpack. "Sorry," the mom called, barely glancing back. Gordy waved it off. "No problem. Just my tibia." The boarding process was everything Gordy hated. Slow, chaotic, loud. People cutting lines like it was an Olympic event. Kids screaming like someone had taken away their iPad privileges, and a cruise director with a microphone glued to her gums, telling everyone to smile like they weren't already sweating through their shirts. Gordy preferred things you could plan. Coffee at 6, toast at 6:15, news on the half hour, and no surprises unless the weather changed or the dog threw up. Here, it was all clamor and perfume and forms he couldn't read without digging out his drugstore glasses. They scanned his ID with a cheerful beep, like it made things better, and handed him a drink coupon, like it was a prize for surviving. He didn't want a drink. He wanted his friend Daryl, who had promised, sworn even, he'd be there. Now Gordy was standing alone in a human cattle chute, holding a tote bag emblazoned, "Let the sea set you free," and feeling like the punchline to a joke no one had the heart to tell. Veronica hated it too, but in a different way. She hated everyone. She didn't hate everyone. Too much energy to hate everyone. Ronnie didn't have the energy anymore. She just didn't want to talk to them. Didn't want their stories. Didn't want their Instagram handles or their opinions on the shrimp cocktail. People were fine, in theory, but most of them were loud. Most of them smelled like coconut lotion and entitlement. And most of them reminded her of clients, liars, charmers, narcissists with just enough sadness to keep you feeling bad for them. She'd rather drink alone, eat alone, think alone, call it misanthropy if you want. She called it peace. When they finally stepped aboard the ship, they arrived from different gangways at the same time. Veronica from the portside VIP entry, Gordy from the general boarding ramp. They passed within inches of each other at the welcome champagne stand. Neither noticed. The uniformed crew member smiled like a car salesman and held out a flute of something cold and probably cheap. Veronica waved it off. Automatic. Then she paused. Actually, yeah. She took the glass and downed it in one go. Didn't taste it. Didn't care. Bubbles burned a little going down. Nice. Meant it was doing something. The crew member blinked. Would you like another? She handed the empty glass back like a spent shell casing. Let's see how this one treats me. Then she walked on. No thanks, no smile, no cruise spirit. Just her bag, her silence, and the idea she might kill the next person who said bon voyage in a chipper voice. Gordy eyed the tray like it might bite him. Tiny glasses of something pale and fizzy, balanced perfectly like ballerinas on a cruise line budget. He reached out, slow and polite, like asking a favor he didn't really deserve. It's free, right? The crew member nodded, her smile just shy of real. Of course, sir. He gave her a sheepish grin in return, the kind of smile you wore when you'd been taught not to take things you didn't pay for. Back home, you didn't drink before noon unless you were grieving, celebrating, or watching a Packers game. He wasn't doing any of those, but it was already hot, and he'd been ghosted by a man he used to play softball with. It had to count for something. He raised the flute, made a little invisible toast to nobody, and took a sip. Tasted like a wedding punch with ambition. Not bad. He could get used to this. Probably wouldn't, but he could. They moved on. Strangers, ghosted by their people, about to become neighbors without even knowing it. Perfect setup. Here's how this moment unfolds, alternating between Gordy's voice and Ronnie's voice as their distinct styles and personalities collide. Scene. The door wouldn't shut. Gordy, it was late, somewhere between a second dessert and regret. The ship creaked like an old porch swing in a storm. Gordy had just brushed his teeth with something tasting like mint and cruise soap when he heard it. A clunk followed by a soft, confused knock. He stared at the connecting door between rooms, offering privacy in theory, but in practice made you feel like you were rooming with a ghost. The door had been rattling all evening like it didn't believe in hinges, and now it stood ajar with a defeated lean, as if asking for help. Well? Gordy muttered, cracking his knuckles. Can't be hard. He crouched in his slippers, fiddling with the latch like he had on the furnace damper back home in Duluth. Except this wasn't Duluth. This was the Atlantic, and the cruise line had apparently spared every expense on hardware. 2 twists of a penknife, a strategic shove, and the lock gave up the ghost. The door swung open like a confession. Oh boy, Ronnie. She heard a scrape, then a pop. Then nothing, which was worse. Veronica stepped out of the bathroom in a t-shirt and gym shorts, towel around her neck, hair wet. The door between rooms was open a good 6 inches. Light spilled through like a dumb idea. She walked over, leaned in, saw movement. You serious right now? He looked up like a kid caught rewiring the toaster. I was just, trying to fix it, he said. Is it fixed? It's, permanently open. She looked at him, looked at the door, then back at him. You gonna crawl in here and rearrange the furniture next to you? He held up both hands like she was a cop. No, ma'am. I'll wedge a chair against it. I promise. Ronnie shook her head, turned back toward her bed. You break it. You bought it, handyman. Gordy, she was sharp. Like a razor you keep in the drawer just in case. He didn't blame her. He wouldn't want some half-stranger fumbling with locks in the middle of the night either. Still, he felt a little bad. Just enough to make it weird. He dragged over the desk chair and wedged it against the door, nor really making it better. If it helps, he called through the crack, I used to build deck railings in my 20s. Silence. Then, if it helps, I don't care. He smiled. She was going to be a tough nut, probably good for him. Outstanding tension meets character moment. Let's keep their voices sharp and distinct. Ronnie's fury will hit like a 38 snub nose, and Gordy will counter with well-meaning Midwest awkwardness, humility, and a peace offering wrapped in soft belly chuckles. Scene, truce negotiation by faulty doorlight. She stood in the doorway with her hands on her hips, legs braced like she was about to serve someone a warrant. The door hung open like a smirk. You broke it. You actually broke it. Gordy opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Yup, she said. That's what I thought. He looked like a man trying to apologize without making eye contact. Look, I thought I could fix it. Little DIY magic. Congratulations, you've DIY'd us into cohabitation. She jabbed a finger toward the cracked door. I get to hear you brush your teeth. I get to hear you snore. I get to hear whatever Midwestern retirement hell you broadcast in your sleep. Gordy, her answer stung a little. He hadn't meant to be a nuisance. He just didn't like broken things. Always felt like an insult to his upbringing. He held up a peace offering, literally. Tell you what, he said, walking to his dresser. I got a minibar voucher the boys gave me. I haven't touched it. It's yours. All of it. Vodka, rum, something pink I don't know the name of. She didn't speak. And listen, if the snoring's a deal breaker, I'll sleep in the chair. My kids say I snore like a Harley idling in gravel, but I've gotten quieter with age. Still no response. He nodded, added one more offer to the pot. And if you want it, the bed closest to the window is softer. I tried both. The other one has a bar in the middle like a church pew. Ronnie, she stared at him like she was trying to decide if she'd laugh or throw something. Her hand twitched toward the minibar voucher. Is this how you handle conflict, Gordy? You bribe people with warm vodka and second-hand bedding. No, he said. Normally I just bake a pie and hope for the best. She blinked. Then, reluctantly, the corners of her mouth twitched. Gordy, it wasn't a win, but it wasn't a loss. It was what his mother would have called a start. She took the better bed, took the minibar bottle of spiced rum, too. He noticed she didn't take the pink one. Even he didn't trust it. He eased into his own creaky mattress and turned off the light. A few beats of silence passed between them. Just so we're clear, her voice came through the cracked door. If you fart in your sleep, I'm taping this door shut with a bathrobe. Gordy smiled into the dark. Understood. Gladly. Here's the next morning, keeping Ronnie in Leonard's voice, bone-dry, hard-edged, and Gordy in Keeler's, gentle, self-effacing, quietly funny. Their truce is holding, for now, but breakfast is about to test its structural integrity. Scene, awkward breakfast and a sunrise too early. Gordy, he woke up early. He always did. Years of habit, mostly. Farm reports, work shifts, and a bladder didn't take weekends off. The sky was still pink and soft when he stepped out onto the shared balcony with a cup of coffee he'd bribed from a night porter. It wasn't good coffee. Crew's coffee never was. But it was hot, and it gave him something to hold while pretending he liked sunrises. He figured she'd still be asleep. She didn't strike him as the up-with-the-gulls type. So he leaned on the rail, sipped quietly, and tried to decide whether the horizon line made him feel peaceful or like he was slowly floating away from everything he knew. The door behind him slid open. Ronnie, she stepped onto the balcony like she'd been dared. No makeup, no hair done, t-shirt with a faded concert logo and a pair of joggers had seen better days. In her hand, a paper cup, probably espresso. She wasn't a drip girl. She glanced sideways at him. The silence between them held just long enough to get awkward. You breathe heavy. He smiled into his mug. Morning to you, too. She took a sip. How long you been out here? Not long. Sky was doing a thing. Thought I'd see it before it got loud again. She didn't answer. Didn't need to. Gordy, they stood for a minute, side by side, not quite together. The air smelled like salt and waffles. The ocean moved in a slow, reassuring way, saying it didn't care what you were going through. He gestured with his mug. You hungry? She looked at him like it was a trick question. Not for conversation. Good, he said. We'll go to the buffet and not say a word, like a spy movie, but with bacon. She rolled her eyes but didn't turn him down. Scene, the buffet. Ronnie, the buffet was exactly what she expected. Chaos with sneeze guards. Tongs clinking, kids reaching with sticky fingers, people behaving like croissants were endangered species. She hated it, hated them, hated herself for being hungry. Gordy got oatmeal. Of course he did. She filled a plate with eggs and sausage like she had something to prove. They found a corner table near a porthole. She expected him to start talking. He didn't, just nodded at her plate. Solid protein choices. She arched a brow. Are we reviewing each other's breakfast now? Nope, he said, buttering his toast. Just making conversation the Midwestern way. Gordy, she didn't smile exactly, but she didn't leave either, which, all things considered, was progress. Scene, breakfast and the braless truth. It started with eggs, overcooked, rubbery, same as last night's shrimp. They can't cook anything on this damn ship. She said it like a complaint, but it landed soft. Tired, like she wasn't mad at the eggs, not really. Gordy just chewed. I didn't even want to come, she muttered, still chewing. My daughter booked it, told me I needed a break, that I've been wound so tight for so long I squeak when I walk. She poked at her sausage with the side of her fork. I haven't taken a week off since 2008. Now he looked up. I own a small agency, she added. Private investigations, mostly cheating spouses, every now and then something ugly. She shrugged, regretted talking already. Guess you can't stalk people from a cruise ship. Gordy. She said it all without looking at him, which he figured was how she made it easier. Like driving at night, you don't need to see the whole road, just the next 20 feet. He wanted to say kind words, understanding. But instead, his brain picked the moment to register a second, entirely different detail. She wasn't wearing a bra. He hadn't meant to notice. God help him, he wasn't trying. But when she leaned across the table to jab her toast into the jelly packet, her shirt shifted, and, well, there it was. Not indecent, not vulgar, just there. The subtle sway of reality, honest and unrestrained. And now his brain wouldn't shut up. He cleared his throat, took a sip of his orange juice like it might erase the image. It didn't. Sounds like you needed the vacation, he managed. She nodded, still looking down, then froze. Slow, real slow. She looked up, her eyes narrowing like she was running a checklist. God, damn it. She glanced down at her chest, then up at him, and her expression landed somewhere between suspicion and resignation. Did you know? He opened his mouth, closed it. I suspected nothing. She gave him a flat look. He raised both hands, palms out. Swear to God, ma'am, I was looking at the toast. She covered herself with her arms. It didn't help. Of course I forgot. Stormed out like a lunatic, half awake and still pissed. She pushed her plate away. Great, now I'm the crazy lady flashing strangers over bacon. He leaned in, careful not to smile too much. Ronnie, he said gently, you're not the crazy lady. You're the one who finally got out of the house and forgot to armor up. That's not madness. That's progress. Oh, this is deliciously nuanced. Ronnie's instinct is to pull away, but she catches Gordy squirming and pivots into weaponized nonchalance. The Leonard voice gives her just the right edge for this kind of mischief, and Gordy's Keeler-style inner monologue will carry the weight of his nervous, gentlemanly discomfort like a wool sweater in July. Let's walk them through this dance. Scene: the retreat and the counterattack. Ronnie, she shoved her chair back. Not a big movement, but sharp enough to draw attention. Well, she said, that's enough vulnerability for one morning. She stood, coffee cup still in hand, arms crossed casually beneath her chest now, but not hiding. Not anymore. Gordy looked like he was trying to evaporate. She saw it, a flicker in his eyes. He couldn't look directly at her and couldn't not look. Poor guy was sweating through his decency. Interesting. She tilted her head. You okay there, Mr. Oatmeal? He blinked. Yep, peachy. She took a sip, then let her arms drop to her sides. So what's your policy on eye contact? Firm handshake? Stare at the butter dish. He looked straight at the butter dish. Gordy. It was like high school all over again. Only now he was 60 and the stakes were lower but somehow more terrifying. He wasn't sure where to look. Not in a crude way. In a don't disrespect the woman who just opened her soul and forgot her undergarments way. He wasn't built for this. She was sharp and beautiful in a way making you feel like you'd walked into traffic. And she knew it. God help him, she knew it now. He tried to be noble, tried to think about plumbing repairs, unpaid bills, his sister's bridge group, anything to keep his gaze where it belonged. I think, he said gently, that you've got more guts than most people I've met on this ship. She narrowed her eyes. Nice deflection, he smiled. Decades of practice. Ronnie, she could have gone back to her room, could have thrown on the damn bra and reset the morning. But where's the fun? No. He was squirming, polite, respectful, sweet even, which made it more fun to watch him sweat. She plopped back into the chair with a deliberate bounce and leaned forward. Well, I'm still hungry. His eyes went wide like a deer hearing an air horn. You gonna pass the syrup, or do I have to make a scene? Gordy. He passed the syrup, with both hands. Carefully, like it might explode. Scene, one more turn of the screw. She knew exactly what she was doing now. She wasn't mad anymore. She was in control. And when you've spent your adult life chasing cheaters through parking garages and catching lies like mosquitoes, control was more precious than gold. Gordy was soft, not weak. There was a difference. He was the kind of man who called waiters sir and thanked cashiers with both hands on the receipt. Those men didn't bluff, didn't plot. They just endured, which made him fun to poke. She leaned back, stretching lazily, arms over her head, chest forward, shirt tugged tight across terrain he was desperately trying not to acknowledge. Tell me, Gordy, she said like she was asking about the weather. How many other women have you nearly seen topless before breakfast? Gordy, he actually coughed. Not a big one. More like a church cough, the kind you try to smother in a hymnal. Can't say I keep stats, he said, eyes locked on the edge of his napkin. You'd definitely be in the top one. She snorted, an honest-to-God snort. He was blushing now, and he could feel it. The kind of blush creeping down your neck like maple syrup in August. Still, he didn't look. Wouldn't. Couldn't. Not because he was afraid, because he was respectful. And a little bit terrified. I don't bite, she said. I believe you, he replied, then added, but I'm still not looking. Ronnie, she let the silence hang, let him sit in it. Then she leaned in, elbows on the table, chin resting in her palm. You're kind of a Boy Scout, aren't you? I was actually a Webelow, he muttered. She laughed again, real this time. Not just at him, at the absurdity of it all. All right, Webelow, you passed. He raised an eyebrow. Passed what? Whatever test I just gave you. She stood up, no drama, just grace and muscle. Then she leaned down, close to his ear. You make a decent breakfast companion, she said, voice low. But if I catch you peeking tonight, I'm sleeping on your bed, with all the covers. And then she walked away, hips moving like she hadn't forgotten a damn thing. Gordy, he didn't exhale until she was gone. And even then, it came out like a sigh wrapped in a prayer. He'd survived. Barely. Whatever this was, this woman, this cruise, this crack in the routine of his life, he wasn't ready. But maybe, just maybe, it was the point. Scene setup. Ronnie's room, pre-class ultimatum. She slipped the tight black tube top over her head, smoothing it into place with a practiced tug. No bra. Let him deal with it. Her shorts were cut-off denim, frayed high at the thigh, the kind you wear when you're confident or mean to fake it. She added hoop earrings, lip gloss, and a half smile saying she had a plan. Gordy knocked once, then opened the cracked door without stepping in. You said we had to sign up for something. I did. She turned just enough for him to get a side view, enough to rattle him. Salsa dancing. Starboard deck. He blinked. Dancing? Me? You owe me. For what? She turned full on now, hands on hips, neckline holding tension like a guitar string. For ogling my chest at breakfast. I did not ogle. Oh, you ogled, Webelow. You ogled politely, but you ogled. I stared at the butter dish. She stepped closer, voice low and even. Then I suggest you salsa your little Midwestern conscience onto the dance floor with me, or I'll have to report your wandering eyes to someone in a position of authority. A beat. Like that cruise director with the teeth. Gordy, he opened his mouth, closed it. Tried to imagine explaining any of this to his sons back home. Instead, he said, Do I at least get to lead? She laughed so hard she had to reapply her lip gloss. Scene, the mirror and the lounge. She meant to get 15 minutes of sun, just enough to fake like she'd enjoyed herself. The forecast said rain by nightfall, and she hadn't come all this way to go home the same color as printer paper. So she threw on the little black bikini, the one she hadn't worn since Cabo with her ex, and tied a sarong low on her hips, tossed the towel over her shoulder. No makeup, no armor. Heading to the sun deck, she passed a full-length mirror tucked beside the stairwell. She glanced, then stopped, stepped back, took a longer look. What the hell? Her. In a bikini she still fit, sun on her collarbones. Hair somehow didn't look like a fight. Her, with a tight, flat stomach, arms like she meant business, and a high, round ass saying the gym hadn't been a waste of time. She tilted her head, blinked. When did this happen? In the city, she didn't see herself. Not really. Just shapes and shadows and the tired woman who watched liars ruin each other's lives. Mirrors weren't for truth. They were for checking if your blouse had blood on it or your shirt was wrinkled. But this was light and ease. This was a body, still has fight and curve and heat. Damn, she thought, I am a hell of a catch. And just like it had always been waiting, she didn't walk to the lounger. She glided, draped herself across it like she belonged there. The sun hit her skin, the warmth dug in deep. For a long time, she didn't move. What's happening to me? She ran her hands down her thighs, not in shame, in curiosity. When was the last time I looked at myself, really looked? She couldn't remember. So she closed her eyes, turned her face to the sun, and let the feeling stay. Scene. Holy damn, Gordy. He came back from the ship's store carrying a bag full of questionable souvenirs, tiny bottles of hot sauce, an anchor-shaped bottle opener, and a plastic keychain. It lit up when you pressed a fake gem. His sons would roll their eyes. His daughter-in-law would pretend not to. He cut across the poop deck for a shortcut. Figured he'd dodge the lounge crowd and the stray towel puddles. And then he saw her, Ronnie, laid out on one of the loungers like a centerfold from a tasteful magazine. Black two-piece, sunglasses on, skin catching the sunlight like it owed her something. Legs long, stomach flat. She looked like a woman who knew what to do with herself and wasn't in a hurry to apologize for it. Holy damn, he slowed, just a step, then stopped, just a beat too long. She is really something to look at. Where'd she get the two-piece? Not like it mattered. Could have been burlap and still made an impression. He felt something shift, deep in the chest, low in the gut. Nothing shameful, nothing crude, just a reaction, the kind he hadn't had in a while. What do I do now? He stood there, the plastic shopping bag sweating in his palm, and realized if he stared another second, he'd either drop dead or embarrass them both. So he turned, brisk, polite, and made for the stairs like a man late for something important. Scene. Back in the cabin. He tossed the bag on the bed and looked at himself in the mirror. Hair thinning, belly soft, arms decent, legs passable. He opened the closet, dug out the swim trunks his sons had bought him for Father's Day. Still had the tags on. All right, he muttered. Let's scare the upper decks. He tugged them on. Found a pair of sunglasses not too ridiculous. Dabbed some sunblock on his nose like a guy who knew he burned fast. Then he stood there, trying to figure out if he was doing this because he wanted sun or because she'd seen hers. Either way, he smiled. Let's see what the ocean thinks of Gordy Pennwell. Scene. The long look. Ronnie. She felt it before she saw it. A subtle shift in atmosphere, like someone had just walked into a room which only existed around her. She opened one eye behind the sunglasses. Gordy. He was standing near the railing, with a towel over his shoulder, and a look on his face like someone had pointed a spotlight at his soul. Swim trunks, Hawaiian print, knees pale, eyes wide. He was trying not to stare, which only made it more obvious. Well, she adjusted her position slightly. Not obscene, just intentional. One leg stretched out, the arch of her foot pointed like punctuation. He blushed. Actually blushed. She tilted her head, watching him fumble with his towel like it had offended him. The thought came, I wonder if he'll get me some suntan lotion and rub it on my back. A beat later, I wonder what he'll do if I untie my top, get a better tan, and maybe knock him clean into the pool. Where are these ideas coming from? She turned her face back to the sun, but her smile curled sharp at the corner. He's a nerd. A sweet, decent, blushing nerd. Not my type. Never has been. And yet, there's something about a man who still looks away when he sees too much. Well then, let's see how much you can blush, Gordy. Gordy. He tried to act casual, like he hadn't just walked into a Calvin Klein ad, like his knees weren't currently debating whether to lock or flee. She was lying there like she belonged in the sun, like the ship should stop moving just to accommodate the angle of her tan. And when she shifted, barely, it was like a spotlight hit every one of his insecurities. Don't look, Gordy. Don't be that guy. He turned his head, looked at the pool, looked at a lifeboat, looked at anything but her. And still, he could feel her watching him. He smiled, helpless. There was no winning this. Scene, the tap and the test. She lifted one arm, not too high, just a lazy wave, like a woman calling for a waiter or summoning a man she already owned. Gordy looked around like maybe she was waving at someone behind him. Then she pushed her sunglasses down the bridge of her nose, just far enough to catch his eyes over the rims, held him there. No smile, just the look. Then she tapped the lounge next to her. Once, sharp. Invitation and command, wrapped into 2 fingers and a sliver of smirk. His whole face lit up like a stoplight in July. Jesus, he's actually coming over. He shuffled toward her with his towel clutched like a shield, looking like a man about to audition for a job he didn't apply for. She watched him bend down to spread the towel. His hands fumbled with the edge. He kept his eyes on the lounger like it was sacred ground. She let him settle in, let him get comfortable, then dropped the bomb. "Hey, Gordy," she said, cool and breezy. "Do me a favor." He turned, hopeful. "Sure. Anything." She reached into her beach bag and pulled out a bottle of sunscreen. Held it up like an offering. "My back's kind of tricky to reach." She didn't smile, just stretched slowly onto her stomach, tying her hair up in a knot. She didn't untie the top yet, but the implication hovered, heavy as the heat. "Get the shoulders first," she murmured. Gordy, he took the bottle like it was ticking. His hands were already clammy, and now he was supposed to touch her? Her shoulders? The same shoulders he'd tried not to look at 15 minutes ago. "Okay," he said, voice cracking just enough to make her toes wiggle in amusement. He squeezed the lotion into his palm. It made a loud little plorp. Of course it did. He started with the edges of her shoulders, the bare skin warm and soft under his fingers. She didn't flinch, didn't sigh. Just lay there like she'd done this 100 times. Which she probably has, he thought, blushing harder. And then, slowly, she reached back, fingers brushing the knot at the center of her bikini top. "If you need me to untie it," she said, voice even, "just say the word." He froze. Right there. Hands still on her. There were no words. Scene, the pressure mounts. He paused. Hands on her back, heat rolling off him like a furnace wrapped in politeness. She waited. Didn't breathe. "Go on," she said, voice flat as dry ice. "It's just a string." His fingers brushed the knot at the middle of her back. She felt the hesitation, the reverence, the fear. She smiled into the towel. He pulled the knot loose. The straps went slack, the top held by nothing but gravity and stubborn elastic. "There," she said. "Now finish what you started." He did, hesitant but careful, smoothed lotion across her shoulder blades, down to the curve of her ribs. His touch was light, gentle, too gentle. "Gordy," she said, not looking up, "you're not painting a dollhouse. Put your back into it." A pause. "Yes, ma'am." Oh, now we're getting somewhere. Then it hit her. The next thought. The one coming from nowhere and everywhere. I wonder if I could get him to put lotion on my stomach. She blinked into the towel. Where the hell did this idea come from? Her stomach, her tummy, her belly, her soft middle hadn't been touched in longer than she could remember. What is happening to me? She'd spent a career trailing liars and cornering bastards, kept her body under wraps like a trade secret. Now here she was, practically topless in the sun, plotting ways to get a blushing man to touch her stomach. This wasn't just a vacation. It was a full-blown identity crisis, and she wasn't entirely sure she hated it. Gordy, he didn't know if his hands were trembling or just felt like they were. She hadn't flinched, hadn't smirked, just lay there like he wasn't coming apart at the seams. And now the top was untied. He'd untied it. Oh, Lord. She smelled like citrus and sunscreen. Her skin had a low warmth to it, like stone after sun. And the only thing more dangerous than where his hands were was where they might go next. She was quiet now, too quiet. He waited for her to say thanks, or that's enough, or back off, Wabello. But she didn't. Instead, her head turned slightly on the towel, and she said, "Flip me, flip and fluster. Flip you." He said it like someone who wasn't entirely sure if she meant a wrestling move or a felony. Ronnie turned her head, just enough to catch him in her peripheral. "Well, I'm not asking you to lift me over your shoulder, Gordy. I mean roll me, like a hot dog." He made a noise halfway between a cough and a question. I can hand you the towel if you wanna." She didn't wait. She rolled herself, smooth as silk, one practiced twist of the hips. As she did, she reached behind her back and retied the top in one fluid motion, like the whole thing had been about comfort and sun exposure and nothing else. Gordy exhaled like he'd been underwater, She settled into the lounger, elbows braced behind her, head tilted toward the sky. Relax, Wabillo. The top's secure. No scandal today. Ronnie, the sun hit her full in the face now. Her chest, her stomach. She could feel it everywhere. But the heat creeping up her neck, not UV. Something else entirely. She cleared her throat and picked up the bottle of sunscreen again. This stuff's slippery, she said, holding it out. He didn't take it. Just looked at it like it might explode again. She arched an eyebrow behind her sunglasses. You've seen a stomach before, Gordy. He nodded. In textbooks, he said. She snorted. Well, here's one with freckles and a little scar from a bike accident in '87. Think you can handle that? He still didn't take the bottle. God, he's really sweating now. And suddenly she wasn't annoyed. She was charmed. Something fluttered in her chest, foreign and slow. She handed him the bottle. This time, he took it. Gordy, his hands were warm, lotioned, a little shaky. She lay still, arms folded across her chest like a woman waiting to see just how civilized a man could be under pressure. He started at the side, careful, respectful, just above the hip bone. Her skin was smooth and taut and warm. She didn't move, didn't smirk, but her breath caught, just slightly. That's the sun, she told herself. That's not a blush. That's just more sun than I thought. But it wasn't. She knew it. It was the first real touch she hadn't flinched from in years. Seen, words you can believe. Her head was spinning, not in a dizzy drama queen way, just a slow, strange tilt, like the world had gone off plumb, the kind of disorientation you get when a dream starts to feel like memory. She hadn't had anything to drink. The sun wasn't that hot. She'd checked the weather, no heat advisories, no rum runners in her system. And still, her pulse was loud in her ears. Gordy's hand skimmed gently across her stomach. He was careful, tentative but steady, reverent almost. Jesus, she swallowed. And then, she said it, didn't think it, said it, looked straight at him over her sunglasses, her voice low and quiet and utterly clear. Put some lotion on my legs, please. As soon as the words left her mouth, her breath caught. She blinked. What the hell was this? Where did the tone come from? The softness. She didn't flirt like this, didn't ask things, didn't invite. Not since she shut the thought down. But it was too late, she'd already spoken. Gordy, he froze. Not like a man caught, like a man being trusted. She hadn't said it like a dare. She hadn't smirked, hadn't teased. She just asked. And now her legs, long and toned and bare to mid-thigh, stretched in front of him like the horizon itself had shifted. He looked into her eyes, not at her legs. Not anymore. Okay, he said, voice soft. Yeah, of course. He squeezed the lotion into his palm, rubbed his hands together, and started at her shins. Slow, gentle, steady. He worked upward, just enough pressure to do it right, never going higher than he was invited, and all the while she watched him. Not like she was testing him anymore, like she was remembering something she thought she'd buried. Oh, this is masterfully timed. The tension at a fever pitch, Ronnie motionless but alive beneath the skin, Gordy panicking as his hand accidentally crosses a line, and then bam, the cruise ship's PA cuts through the moment like a cold glass of water to the face. It's awkward, it's intense, it's funny even, and it changes something. Let's take them there. Scene, the slip and the salsa Gordy. His hands had made it to her thighs, bare, smooth, impossibly warm. He was doing fine, focused, respectful, counting his blessings and his heartbeats. And then she moved, not much, just a shift of the hip, a slight realignment on the lounger. But his hand, oh God, oh no, oh sweet Mary and Joseph, his hand slipped, slid, skimmed someplace definitely not on the sunscreen bottle instructions. He froze, eyes wide, mouth open. She didn't say anything. He didn't breathe. Did I just... Yes, he had. She flinched, not visibly, just inside. A muscle twitch, a ripple of surprise and something warmer, something deeper. His hand had slipped. She knew it wasn't on purpose. Gordy wasn't that kind of man, but damn, her body noticed. Every nerve fired like an alarm. She tilted her chin down and looked at him over her sunglasses. He was pale, blushing, frozen like a cartoon character mid-fall. She could have said something, could have laughed, could have brushed it off or shut it down. But before she could choose... Salsa dance lessons will begin promptly in 15 minutes on the starboard deck. Partners encouraged, but not required. He jerked back like he'd been caught by the principal and the priest at the same time. Right, salsa, yep, we signed up, we should get going. He scrambled up like the lounge chair had turned electric, fumbled with the towel, dropped the sunscreen bottle, picked it up, dropped it again. Ronnie hadn't moved. Not yet. She just stared at the sky, lips parted, chest rising and falling like something had been disturbed in her. I touched her. I didn't mean to. But I did, and she still wasn't yelling. She sat up slowly, tying the sarong back around her waist like a woman who had just remembered she was being watched by the sun and possibly fate. Gordy stood nearby, stiff as rigging. She looked at him, really looked. He was still blushing, still wrecked with guilt, still Gordy, and suddenly she wasn't mad. She was aware. 15 minutes, she said, standing and brushing sand from her thighs. Her voice was calm. Even, you better hydrate. Wouldn't want you passing out mid-rumba. She walked past him, didn't look back, smiled anyway. Scene, no escape. Weblo Gordy. He paced the cabin. 1 pass. 2. 5. The room still smelled faintly of sunscreen and shame. He'd touched her, accidentally. A place no man should touch by accident, especially not one with good intentions and bad coordination. He told himself it wasn't his fault. He told himself she hadn't screamed. He told himself he'd explain it at the next port, preferably in a letter. What he definitely wasn't going to do, dance. He looked at his reflection. The same face had helped raise 3 boys, built a garage with his own hands, and once kissed a girl behind a drive-in when gas was 89 cents. But this wasn't Duluth. This was a cruise ship with salsa. Nope, he said aloud. I'm staying right here. That's it. Case closed. And then knock knock. He froze, waited. Another knock. Lighter this time. Playful. He stepped toward the door. I'm not, he began, pulling it open. And there she was. Ronnie. She leaned against the door frame like the hallway had been built to feature her. Same black tube top. New skirt, fiesta style, bright and flared, bouncing just above mid-thigh like it had somewhere to be. Her hair was up, lips painted with a gloss catching the light, and her eyes, those damn eyes, held his like they had him on a string. He started to speak. Something about not feeling up to it. Something about needing space. She didn't let him. She reached in, took his hand, and squeezed. Bring your key. And then she turned. He had a whole speech planned about boundaries and embarrassment and how Midwestern men didn't recover from these things overnight. But when she took his hand, it was like she reset the story, like his role had shifted from regretful intruder to date. He grabbed his keycard from the dresser, barely remembering to lock the door behind him, and then he followed her, past the broken lock, past the nerves, into the hallway, into whatever this was. Because the only thing worse than embarrassment was missing the chance to dance with the one woman on the ship who saw him. Oh yes, this is the perfect moment for the heat, not just the physical closeness or the swaying hips, but the internal unraveling catching both of them off guard, especially Ronnie. She's been in control the whole time, calling the shots, testing the limits. But this rhythm, this dance, this man, this is something else. This is dangerously real, and she wasn't ready for how much she needed it. Scene, the dance of unmaking Ronnie. She expected salsa. Something flirty, corny, swing your hips, shake your hands, nothing serious. What she got was samba, heavy drums, low bass. A beat not only didn't just hit, it pulled, like a current under your skin. The instructor was a woman shaped like a sin, in a red dress clinging like a second layer of confidence. She barked steps in Portuguese accented English, and the class followed blindly. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. The hips led, the feet chased, and somewhere in the rhythm, Ronnie forgot how to breathe. She was dancing. No, she was moving. And Gordy, God help him, he was right there, trying his best, sweating, laughing too much, and yet present, steady, unmoving in a way she hadn't moved her. The music wouldn't stop. The rhythm coiled around her spine and pulled her inward. Her hands brushed his, her hip brushed his leg, and the beat kept going. Something inside her started to hum, then burn. This is not about dancing anymore. She blinked, tried to reset, couldn't. The drums pounded, and her mind filled with images, heat, and want. Raw, sharp want. The kind she thought she'd locked in a file cabinet under 5 deadbolts and 1 cold city skyline. But here it was again, demanding. Gordy, he was trying. Oh Lord, was he trying. Step left, step back, shake something. He wasn't sure what. His knees, his shame? The music was relentless. His heart was doing things it hadn't done since Clinton was in office. Ronnie moved like water in heat. Her skin glowed. Her eyes were heavy and bright all at once. He wanted to look away and couldn't. And then she gasped, just a quick inhale, and her foot caught. Not bad, not a fall, just a moment. But she froze. She stepped away, walked off the floor like it had turned to lava. He stood there, arms half raised, like a man left mid-dance by a phantom. She sat hard on the edge of the bench, too hard. Her thighs stuck to the vinyl like pennants. Her face felt flushed, her neck, her chest. God damn. She didn't look back at him, didn't dare. Did he see? Did he see her hips shift to the last beat? The one not part of the lesson? The one coming from someplace low and urgent? Did he see her want something? She pressed her thighs together, crossed her arms. Her heart wouldn't slow down. And her breath, gone. What the hell had just happened? Scene, the bench, and the question. Gordy, he waited a minute, just long enough to not seem pushy, then walked across the deck, towel in hand, shirt stuck to his back like regret. She was sitting there like she'd run a marathon she didn't remember signing up for, arms crossed, shoulders tight, sunglasses on, but he could still feel her eyes flicking around, looking for something not there. He sat next to her, not too close, just enough for her to feel it. I noticed you left kind of fast, he said softly. Are you okay? She didn't answer. He looked at her, really looked. You look like, he hesitated, like something happened. Inside. A beat. Did it? She turned her head just a little, just enough for him to see her mouth. It opened, closed, then opened again, and the words came out. I wanted you to touch me again. She froze. Right there, jaw tight. She hadn't meant to say it, not even close. The voice had been hers, the words too. But where they came from, a place was new, raw. A vault cracking open mid-step, spilling things she'd locked up a long time ago. She didn't look at him, didn't move. Oh God, what did I just say? He heard the words, he heard them, and for a moment, just a moment, his heart thumped so hard it felt like it echoed. But he didn't smile, didn't lean in, didn't try to fix or explain or make it okay. He just said, I'd like that. Soft, plain, true. Seen, the pulse won't let go. She sat with her mouth open, not in seduction, not in confusion, in disbelief. What the hell did I just say? The words still rang in her ears. I wanted you to touch me again. Her breath caught, her chest fluttered, not sweetly, not romantically, like panic. It's the music, she told herself. It's the goddamn samba, always the same. Always the beat, the godforsaken, relentless beat, reaching places no words ever touched, places she didn't name. Couldn't. They didn't have names. They were just there, behind her ribs, low in her belly, behind her knees, under her skin. The drums kicked up again. Boom-cha, boom-cha-cha. It was starting again. The beat rolled in like a tide of heat and ache and memory, and her body, stupid and traitorous, wanted it. No, she had to leave. She had to go. Right now. But she didn't move, because something else, someone else, was anchoring her. Gordy. Still beside her. Still warm. Still watching her like she was a woman and not a hurricane. He didn't understand what just happened. Not really. He'd been asked to dance, then touched something he shouldn't have, then been invited to touch more. Now she was looking off into space like a woman standing on the edge of a cliff, trying to remember if she could still fly. And he just sat there, because he wasn't afraid of her, but he was afraid for her. The music started up again, faster this time, louder. She twitched beside him, like it had hit a nerve straight through her spine. You don't have to stay, he said softly. No pressure, no judgment, just kindness. Ronnie, her fingers gripped the edge of the bench. White-knuckled, her throat worked around words she didn't want to say. I want to leave. She meant it. Then, I can't. She turned her head, looked at him, really looked. I'm afraid, he nodded. Of what? A beat. Then, barely a whisper, of what I'll do if I let this keep happening. Seen, the exit wound. Gordy, he didn't know what to say. She looked like she was either about to cry or explode. Maybe both. He wasn't good with emotions. He was good with oil changes, with leftovers, with steady things. So he said the first thing he knew how to mean, do you want to go to dinner? She looked at him, blinked once. Yes. No, yes. A pause. Then we better go to dinner. And then, right now. She grabbed his hand like a fuse was lit, didn't wait for his answer, didn't give him time to process, just moved, fast. She cut through the dancers, through the sound, the heat, the pounding rhythm, toward the exit, toward the hall, toward the cabins. Her pulse was chaos. Her thoughts worse. Why dinner? Because she couldn't stand this Yusik another second. Because if he looked at her again like this, if this beat touched her again, she didn't know, scaring her more than anything. So she walked, fast, aggressive, like someone trying to outrun a memory or a fantasy. They rounded the corner and she reached for the door. It wasn't just the door to their cabins, it was the door out. She yanked it open like it was on fire. Gordy, he followed, because what else could he do? He didn't understand what was happening, not to her, not to him, but he understood fear and longing and the need to hold someone without squeezing too tight. And as she pulled him through the door like salvation might be on the other side, he offered a prayer without form. Please, God, let me be enough. Let me not hurt her. Let me not screw this up. He tightened his grip on her hand and followed. Scene, the unwrapping Ronnie. She stopped, right there, 2 feet from the cabin beds, still clutching his hand like a drowning woman. She turned. He closed the door behind them, innocent, quiet, even latched it, like they were preserving the moment, like someone might come in and spoil it with questions. She stared at him, took one long breath, then wrapped her arms around his neck. He didn't speak, didn't joke, just let his hands find her hips. They were both sweaty, nervous, alive, on the edge of something too sharp to name. He has no idea, she thought, no idea what he was holding, what was breaking loose inside her. After the first year of her marriage, she hid it. After the affair, she buried it. After the pregnancy, the lies, the second betrayal, she reinforced the vault, made herself untouchable. But now, with his hands unsure but present, with his nerdy innocence and soft Midwestern eyes, she wasn't hiding it anymore. She kissed him, slow at first, then deep, then with a hunger startling even her. When she shifted, his hands slipped, accidentally again, to her butt. Her breath caught, her eyes widened, and then she jumped into his arms. Gordy, one moment they were kissing, the next she was airborne, wrapped around him, legs locked, mouth fierce, hands in his hair, like she was trying to absorb him, like she needed this to stay whole. He was terrified, not of her, of this, of the moment when wanting becomes needing, and needing becomes something deeper than desire. She was kissing him like a storm, like a woman reclaiming something she thought she'd lost forever. And then he remembered what his mother told him, way back in 8th grade when he asked what to do when girls made his stomach feel like an elevator. Whenever you feel something toward a girl, she'd said, tell her this. You are not invisible. You are seen. You are heard. You are very important. He whispered it into her ear, soft. You are not invisible. She paused. You are seen. She pulled back. You are heard. She blinked. And you are very important. She stared at him, like he'd just split her wide open with 5 words. Repeat that. Her voice was gravel, barely made a sound. He did, and then she broke. She started to cry. Not pretty tears, not movie tears, animal tears, puppy tears, like she'd been starved for it her whole life and just found someone holding out a treat. She squeezed him, tighter, arms around his neck, legs around his waist, heart somewhere outside her body. She almost lost control of her thoughts, her breath, her body, but he held her, and for the first time in forever, she let him. Seen the fall and the shift. Gordy, he stepped back, just half a step, but his heel caught the edge of the bed, and gravity, slow and sure, took over. They fell together. Not hard, not jarring. Like the room tilted and said, let's just take a seat. He landed on his backside with a soft grunt. She landed in his lap, and then contact. Low, sudden, warm. His breath hitched. Eyes went wide. Oh, dear Lord, he didn't move, couldn't. Ronnie, their bodies met. Not lewd, not obscene, just honest. Her cheeks flushed before her brain caught up. Oh, God, sorry, she whispered, shifting slightly. That was a tactical miscalculation. She took a breath. Then another, and then her body started to shake, not out of fear, out of everything. He held her, carefully, like she was glass and fire all at once. Can I do anything? He asked softly. She nodded, tears just behind her lashes. You already have, Gordy. Her voice cracked. You already have. Gordy didn't know what to say, so he didn't. He just held her while she shook, while she felt, while everything she'd been holding back poured through the cracks. And when she calmed, she stayed, right there, in his lap. Her hand rose and smoothed his hair like she'd been doing it for years. Then she looked him in the eyes, really looked, and she said, I feel safe with you. A beat. And I haven't felt safe in a very long time. She shifted slightly in his lap, hips rolling just enough to make him nervous again, but not enough to break the moment. Her eyes traced his. His hands rested lightly on her waist, like she might vanish if he held too tight. Then she said, quiet but steady, "Don't be the rebound, Gordy." A pause, a breath. "Be the reason I stop running." She stayed in his lap long after the flush left her cheeks and the tremble left her spine. His chest rose and fell beneath her ear like tidewater, steady, patient, real. She hadn't planned any of this, hadn't wanted it. But now she couldn't unfeel his hands on her hips, couldn't unhear the words he'd whispered when the whole world went quiet. "You are not invisible." The simple truth, spoken by a man who probably ironed his socks, had undone her. She wasn't rebuilding yet. But she was done hiding. They didn't speak for a while. They didn't need to. Outside their door, the ship danced through salt and sunlight. Inside, the air had settled. Finally, not into answers, but into possibility. Gordy, still unsure whether this was a dream or a miracle, ran one hand along her back and whispered something about missing the dinner buffet. She laughed, a real laugh, low, warm. It shocked them both. When they finally stood, her fingers still linked in his, Ronnie glanced toward the hallway like someone ready to walk into a new story. "Next time," she said, brushing a kiss just beneath his jaw, "I'll bring the music." Then she opened the door, stepped into the golden corridor light, and walked forward, not away. And Gordy, heart pounding and hope ignited, followed with something close to joy burning in his chest. Maybe love wasn't found in grand gestures. Maybe it was hiding in a salsa beat, a plastic key card, and the moment a woman finally chose not to run.